What happens if a prosecutor obtains recordings of an attorney meeting with his client? I'm Tulsa attorney James Wirth, and that's the issue that we're dealing with today. And it's actually from a recent real-world case out of the 10th Circuit, which covers Oklahoma. And that's the United States of America versus Orduno Ramirez. And that is case number 22-3019. And in that case, the defendant and his attorney had a meeting while he was in custody, and that meeting was recorded because they were in jail. However, that is still privileged attorney-client, and they should not be reviewed by anyone to review those materials, particularly not a prosecutor. However, in this case, a prosecutor got hold of that video and apparently watched it, but there was no audio of that. And there's prior court case law from Sillinger v. Hathworth, which states that an intrusion like this is a per se Sixth Amendment violation, which requires that a conviction be reversed and ultimately a new trial. But in this case, it's a little bit different. So the prosecutor sought to distinguish it from that case because in that case, the communications were before a conviction. And in this case at hand, there was a plea deal that was entered, and then it was before sentencing. So between a conviction and the time of sentencing is when the recordings took place. So the prosecutor tried to distinguish that scenario and say this is not a per se violation. The defendants should be required to prove that they were prejudiced by the bad acts of the prosecutor. So the court ultimately agreed with that position and say that the defendant does have to prove prejudice because it did not occur before the conviction and therefore could not have affected the conviction, although it may have had an effect on the sentence. So can the defendant show that it had an effect on the sentence, that the prosecutor utilized it in some way? And ultimately the court found that the defendant did not meet that burden. So although we have a situation here where it was a clear bad act by the prosecutor that should be punished, the court found that the defendant was required to prove prejudice, did not do so, so it had no effect on the ultimate sentence in this case. And unfortunately, that may be a process that allows these types of bad behaviors by prosecutors to continue if it doesn't result in any negative treatment with the case involved. So if you're dealing with a situation like this, where you've got a prosecutor who may have violated some lines, or you've got a criminal case pending and you have questions for an attorney, you're going to want to speak with an attorney privately and confidentially to get legal advice rather than just watch some videos. So to get something like that scheduled with an attorney at my office, go online to makelawEasy.com.